asking the tour guides, what happened here? And hearing, oh, they killed all the Jews. Get back on the bus. That was the whole tour. I'm going to miss going to Bamberg and saying, and what happened here? And they're going to say, oh, they slaughtered all the Jews. And then going to Rothenburg. Oh, okay, ma'am. What happened here? Oh, they killed all the Jews. Tour's over. And what happened here in Frankfurt? Oh, they killed all the Jews. And what happened here in Cologne? They killed all the Jews. Tragic comedy, huh? But kind of true. Anyway, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu absolutely slaughtered the reputation of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese today in an unprecedented attack by one leader against another. I'm 58 years old. I know I look like I'm James Dean at 20, but I'm 58 years old, and I follow this stuff pretty closely. Diplomatic niceties, diplomatic arguments, the world of politics. I don't read it only in real time, the news, I read history. I have never seen in my life a story like this, where one prime minister so savaged another and just crucified his name. Bibi basically said that, and he wrote this, first he wrote it in a letter, I guess that was leaked to Albanese, and then he posted it on his X account, and he said that Prime Minister Anthony Albanese will be remembered for what he is, a weak leader who failed the state of Israel, but especially failed Australian Jewry. Now, this cuts very close to home. I'm married to an Australian. I got married in Australia. I studied for 2 years of my life in Australia. 2 or 3 times a year, I visit Australia. I have done national TV shows countless times in Australia. At times, I was the darling of Australian media, thank God. A little bit about Israel, but mostly about my books like Kosher Sex or Kosher Lust. So to see the total cratering, the breakdown of relations between the Jewish community and Israel with Australia is a tragedy. And it's a tragedy of Australia's making. Australia has abandoned its Jews. And Australia is becoming a deeply anti-Semitic country. And it really breaks my heart. And I'd love to hear from any of you who are Australians who want to comment. Because like when I was just in Australia, you saw me get attacked on Coogee Beach. You saw that I was speaking in the eastern suburbs in Rose Bay, and you saw that hecklers came. The Australian police ostensibly came to protect me and to stop their intervention to destroy my speech, and ostensibly arrested them just to let them literally walk them down to the end of the street and release them. And I'm not into getting people arrested unless they're really terrorists. These women that disrupted my speech, even if they had just been given a few hours as a sentence by a judge to work with the Jewish community or to go to a Holocaust museum to learn something about the Arab-Israeli conflict, that would have been sufficient for me, but they did nothing. But Albanese has been the worst of all. First of all, Albanese is truly the weakest leader. Notice that he couldn't even make up his mind to recognize a Palestinian state. He waited for Britain, he waited for France, and waited for Canada, and then he just followed suit. He's not a leader, he's a follower. And when he did recognize a Palestinian state, or said that he will in September, he didn't even say what kind of Palestinian state. Is Hamas going to be the government? Are you going to take terrorists and make them the government? Will women have any rights in that state? Will Jews have any rights in that state? Will Muslims have any rights? Will there be any constitution? Will there be freedom of press? Will that Palestinian state that Australia is going to recognize, will they ensure the proper distribution of international aid? And I'm not arguing about the whole debate about who's like starving who in Gaza. I'm talking about money that's going to be given from the European Union or from the United States or the United Nations to that Palestinian government. How are you going to make sure that it doesn't end up with Yasser Arafat or someone like him as another billionaire? Arafat had $5 billion. Or Mahmoud Abbas, who's another billionaire. Or the heads of Hamas, 4 of whom were multi-billionaires. Albanese just declared there's going to be a Palestinian state, which means that he has contempt for the Palestinians. But the fall and continued fall of Australia is something that has deeply saddened me. I used to love visiting Australia. I thought of living in Australia. I did live in Australia. As a rabbinical student, I was one of the 10 founders of the Rabbinical College of Sydney, Australia. My wife, Debbie, and I married there. And after we married, I was kind of offered a job to be a rabbi in a place where there weren't yet a lot of rabbis, especially in the far-flung communities north of Australia, Queensland, or places like Darwin, which are the Australian outback. Very beautiful places of incomparable beauty, and very remote. And I still considered it because I said to myself, there is no country in the world like Australia. There is no country that is so incredibly chill. Now, that's not the case anymore. Chill, they called for the gassing of Jews on October 8th, the day after October 7th, outside Australia's most famous landmark. You spoke to him.
I spoke to him, all said, everything okay.
Thank you, Michael.
I gave him all the necessary information, so he's going to take care of it. Yeah?
Thank you so much, Michael. Thank
Pleasure,
you,
pleasure.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you,
It was nice to meet you. Huh?
You too, thank you.
Have a nice evening.
We really
Still,
appreciate
and
it.
see you
Thank you,
tomorrow,
thank you, Michael. Okay. He's making sure we got kosher food. God bless him. You can be kosher wherever you go. There's no excuse not to. And I'm really happy it worked out here. That was the man that made it happen, Michael. God bless him. Australia used to be so, shrimp on the Barbie and Crocodile Dundee. Now it's just like a sewer of anti-Semitism. And Albanese adds his own Jew-hating filth to that cesspit of anti-Semitism every single day. And it actually breaks my heart. That's the first subject I want to talk about. If anyone wants to comment on that, if you're Australian. But I wondered to myself, amidst being married to an Australian, and I could have gotten an Australian passport, because I'm married to an Australian, the same way my wife Debbie has an American passport as a dual Australian-American citizen. But my 9 children are 9 Australian citizens. And I really wonder, yesterday, Albanese and Penny Wong, the worst foreign minister in Australian history, and another true Israel hater, they barred a member of the Knesset, Simcha Rothman. They barred him from entering Australia. Now think about this. Australia allows every Islamist on earth, if you call for the murder of Jews, gassing of the Jews, you don't even get arrested. But if you are a parliamentarian who's elected in a democratic election, in the only free and fair elections in the entire Middle East, you can't come into Australia if they don't like what you say. And by the way, I learned long ago that Australia is not a democracy. I saw it during COVID. Australia just became a giant prison. I know it started as a giant prison, but then it was free for a couple of years, and then it ended as a giant prison. During COVID, Australia lost its mind. For those of you who are not Australian, I don't think you can even comprehend the level of the lockdowns. We thought we had lockdowns in New York and New Jersey, where we live. We couldn't go to a park or something. My favorite place for culture and the arts in New York, Carnegie Hall, was closed. That for us was a lockdown. In Australia, you couldn't leave your house for like more than 400 or 500 feet. You could be arrested by the police. If you went to Australia, you had to go into things. Oh, sorry about that. If you went to Australia, you had to go to places like no problem, please. Oh yeah. Sorry to interrupt. If you went to Australia during COVID, here I have a friend from New Zealand right next to me. I don't know if you remember. New Zealand was just as bad. Yeah. If you went to Australia during COVID, they had helicopters flying overhead to monitor your movements. Now, my wife's parents live in Sydney, and she wanted to visit her parents. If you wanted to go to Australia during COVID, you had to go to what was essentially a jail. So my wife's parents live in New South Wales, which is one of the giant states. Australia, all the states are enormous, and they live in Sydney. And in order to go to Sydney, you had to first fly to some like jail cell. It was a crappy motel where you couldn't even get food. They would give you food on a tray and they'd like throw it at you. They were so afraid that like the whole country would get COVID. Now, I'm not making light of COVID, but neither do I believe that a person's civil liberties can just suddenly be erased. And they were absolutely erased in Australia. This is a true story. On the Jewish New Year, which is coming up in 5 weeks, Rosh Hashanah. It's always in September, right? So 5 years ago during COVID, my friends, they forcibly closed all the synagogues, unlike in the United States. And so they had to hear the blowing of the shofar. So one of the synagogues announced that they're going to do a socially distanced, 20 feet apart of every person, outdoors in a park, where someone's going to blow the shofar and you'll be able to hear it on the Jewish New Year. Do you know that the Victorian police, so Victoria is another giant state in Australia, and that's where Melbourne is. The Victorian police came to that blowing of a shofar. It wasn't just socially distanced like in the U.S. outdoors 6 feet. We're talking 20 feet. It was impossible to get COVID 20 feet from someone else. By the way, outdoor transmission, all science showed, was likewise almost impossible. The police started taking the names of the people who turned up, the names of the people who came to fulfill a simple religious obligation. So, look, you can live where you want to live. You can do what you want to do. I personally, it was from then on that I started to really lose interest in Australia, because I said to myself, if they could take away my civil liberties, even for my own good tomorrow, if any country can tell me, you know what, Shmuley, drinking a beer, here, l'chaim, I'm even going to prove it now. This is a real beer. L'chaim, everybody. Cheers. Blessed be the Lord God, through his word everything came into existence. If tomorrow Australia can tell me you can't have a beer because too many calories, you're going to become, Shmuley, you're already short. You're going to be short, fat, and obese, and even uglier than you are now. Now, if I want to be short, fat, and obese, now that's probably a bad idea, but it's still my flippin' decision, man. And I just don't want to live in a tyranny. We Americans broke off from Britain because they taxed our tea. And it wasn't the tax. It was the fact that we had no representation. It was the fact that we had no voice. You know, we were paying back then, in 1776, we were paying not even a penny on the dollar in taxes. Today, we Americans pay 50, 60 cents on the dollar in taxes between local, state, and federal taxes. But we don't rebel because at least we get to vote. We have congressmen, we have senators. Okay, so I knew back then that Australia was no longer a democracy, and now especially I see that its treatment of its Jewish citizens has become deeply, deeply problematic. And I think that Prime Minister Netanyahu's letter to Albanese was very courageous. And a lot of people are saying it was impolitic. It lacked diplomatic finesse. But you know, when you're a country fighting a six-front war for your very existence, sometimes you just need to say it like it is. You need to skip diplomatic niceties, and you have to just state very candidly. And no one understands Albanese's position vis-a-vis the Jewish community in Israel. We don't even get it anymore. We just don't even understand it anymore. I mean, take away, no matter how much people disagree with Israel, dislike Israel, condemn Israel, let's just look at local Jewish communities, be they in the United States or New Zealand or Australia or Belgium or London or England or France. What does persecution of Jews in local communities down under have to do with any actions of the state of Israel, be they righteous or be they criminal, God forbid, which they're not, but what's the connection? In Australia and Melbourne, you had 3 synagogues burnt down already just over the past 6 months. And one of them, the Adas Synagogue in Melbourne, was the most prayed at synagogue in all of Australia. You're talking about 2,000 people or so prayed there every single day. It was burnt to asunder. Now, luckily, thank God, miraculously, nobody died. But Albanese was playing tennis in Canberra while it was burning. And he continued to do whatever the heck he did for 3 days. Now, Australia is not as big as you think. The flight from Canberra to Melbourne is not more than an hour. It's a 40-minute flight. And it took him 4 days, and he has a government-owned plane, obviously. Trump went to meet Putin in Alaska, 7-hour flight from Washington, was there for like 4 hours and came straight back to try to bring about peace between Ukraine and between Russia. But Albanese couldn't get on a 40-minute flight to just visit the Jewish community and make them feel like you're not alone through all of these attacks, through synagogues being burnt down. If my Christian brothers and sisters were having their churches burnt down, if my Muslim brothers and sisters were having their mosques burnt down, and I was a world leader, let alone just a good citizen, I should do so as Rabbi Shmuley, a good citizen, I would do my utmost to make them feel comforted and they're not alone. But that's not what happened in Australia with the Prime Minister. Okay, so we got a couple of subjects to talk about today, and I'm going to bring on some people who want to join me. And I'm going to just make sure I call my producer in New York, Johnny, and make sure that you guys can hear me. It's a little bit windy here. I want to know that the audio is okay. But if you're Australian especially, and we've met a lot of wonderful Australians on this trip. Johnny, am I okay? I'm speaking to Johnny in New York. Okay, so my New York producer says, good, great stuff. Okay, God bless. Okay. If you're an Aussie, and here, where are my glasses? Where are my glasses? I gotta read here. Okay, this is gonna be tough because I don't have them. I'm 58 years old. I wear glasses now to read. Okay, let me see. Am I gonna talk about? I don't know who the heck that is. Give me some stuff here. If you're Australian, what do you think in general about Netanyahu writing a letter accusing the Prime Minister of Australia, Anthony Albanese, of being a weakling? I mean, that's very, very loaded, powerful language. Oh, we also have to talk about Ben Shapiro. Where is this guy from? Oh, someone from Britain. That's pretty cool. Let me see if he'll come on for a second. And all the stuff that destroys marriages, but also can be a real blessing if you want to come on. But let's talk about Ben Shapiro. Listen, oh, here she is. Hi, what's your name?
Me, Laura.
Oh, wait, you gotta be louder. Hold on a second. Don't be shy.
I wasn't expecting this.
Okay, well, life is full of surprises, right? What's your
That's
name?
very true. My name is Laura. I'll take these off. My name is Laura. Hello, Rabbi. I love everything that I have been following you for so many years, I have to say. I bought your one of your lesser known perhaps books, which was The Intelligent Person's Guide to Judaism, and it it was, I just found it awesome, and I kept on reading it, and it was one of the reasons why for a time I was Shomrei Shabbos. I'm not anymore, and there's a reason for that. I'm not going to go into that now. But yeah, I think you're awesome, because I find you intelligent and eloquent, and eloquence more than anything at the moment is very important. So yeah, hi.
Firstly, I want to tell you how much I appreciate that. You have to understand, and I'm going to be very vulnerable for a moment. I wake up every morning to such a sewer of hatred.
Wait,
Most of
say
it.
that again.
I wake up. I said for a moment, given your kind words, I want to be vulnerable. I want to tell you the truth. I wake up every morning to 1,000 messages of not just hatred, but death threats. Some of them are so graphic that you wonder the people who took the time, whether they're really dangerous. I get memes of my head chopped off and blood spurting. I'm sorry to gross you all out. Blood spurting out of my neck. I get memes. Or just the most disgusting messages every single day. So to hear the occasional kind word, you'd be surprised that it really is much appreciated. And for our non-Jewish listeners, I want to explain. You said that you were thinking of being Shomer Shabbos, which means Sabbath observant. You know, interestingly, on this little trip that my wife and I are doing, and I'm doing research for a book that I'm writing. I wrote a book on the Holocaust already. It's called Holocaust Holiday, but I'm now writing a book about anti-Semitism in Europe in general, because really it's a phenomenon. I know we all know that it was kind of present everywhere for 2,000 years, but I don't think we really understand it. I'm trying to write a very readable, very relatable book. So I'm on this trip looking at all the communities that were decimated in the First Crusade, 1086, and the Second Crusade, 1244, false allegations of the Jews poisoning the wells of Europe, the bubonic plague. But the point is that a group of Australians, of all people I'm speaking about, came over to me and said, when they saw that me and my wife had to walk everywhere on the Sabbath, if we wanted to go to one of the excursions, if they were doing, like a tour, and I love history, and with a professional tour guide, so they would go there by bus, and we would walk 1 hour in 100-degree heat. There's a heat wave going through Europe, as you all know. And this guy said to me, "How do you do it?" And I said to him, "Are you kidding? I find the Sabbath absolutely liberating. Listen, I love social media, but it is an addiction for all of us." My wife always says to me, "Shmuley, you're not listening to me. You're still looking at like this message and that." I said, "No, I'm actually just looking at 10,000 new came in over the past hour." But I find Shabbat very liberating. Do you find it too constraining? I mean, the fact that you can be liberated from your phone for 24 hours, is that something you're capable of? I mean, all of us struggle even, or to be liberated from the noise of a television set, or to liberate it
Hang on
even
one
from the
moment.
news at
One
times.
moment.
Like the news is
What
so
is it?
dark
So
and
long.
ugly.
Come on, it's okay. My son is coming. Oh. It's okay. Just put it on the side. Um, my my children did, and it's very. Hang on, sweetheart. This is live.
Oh, okay.
Hang on. Quick. I love you very much, but yeah. Sorry. It's okay. I'll speak to you in a bit. Yeah. All right. All right. I love you. Bye bye. Sorry. um.
Even the feeling that you
My
don't.
children found it.
Yeah.
My children found it more constraining And
Okay.
my family and my ex-husband, in their different ways, worked to get it out of us. And yeah, parental alienation will do that.
Well, I want to say something. I personally find the Sabbath. I think Shabbat is something that we
Not
Jews
for
should spread
me,
to the
but
right.
for them. So,
Right.
and I
But
guess
I actually think that the Sabbath is something that we Jews should share with our non-sisters worldwide. Meaning, a very quick thing here. For those of you who listen to me know that I love history. God creates the world in 6 days, and He rests on the Sabbath. On the seventh, the seventh day is Saturday. Nobody disputes that. So how did the Christian Sabbath become Sunday? I mean, you just read the first chapter of Genesis. Like, how does it become Sunday? And it was really a concession that the early Christians made to the Emperor Constantine, because they really wanted Constantine, the Emperor of Rome, who ruled all of Rome from the year 333 AD and on. He defeated his rival Maximus at the Milvian Bridge. They wanted him to become a Christian, but there was one problem. Constantine the Great, after whom Constantinople, today's Istanbul, is named, he worshipped Solus, the great sun god. He loved the sun. He would give and the sun was worshipped on Sunday, on the first day of the week. So the
Oh,
Christians act.
the connection's going, Rabbi. The connection is not great here.
It doesn't even work on Sunday because if the reason it's pretty damn busy on Sunday. That's why today in Christian denominations you have things like the Seventh Day Adventists who are trying to go back. In any event, thank you very much for joining us, and I appreciate your kind words. Thank you. God bless. Okay,
You
I gotta
too.
learn how to. Okay, let me cancel
And
that.
yeah, and be well. There's an anti-Semite on the chat, just to let you know.
By the way, there's 10,000 anti-Semites on the chat. Let me just.
Rabbi,
Okay.
listen, one quick thing before I go.
Yes.
My father just passed away last
Oh, I'm
week.
sorry.
Give
I'm
us a
very sorry.
blessing. Give me a bracha. Give me my
Yeah,
family
yeah.
bracha.
I wish you long life. I wish you God's comfort. Wow, that's tough. My father died 5 years ago. I'm still not over it. I don't even understand how people survive the death of a parent. I meet people who like their parent pops off and like the next day they're back at work and they say that's life, and I don't understand it because it's 5 years later for me, and I think of my father several times a day, every day. And then I lost my mother 2 years ago. That was even harder. I can't even think about my mother. I discuss this with my wife, Debbie, all the time. Like, should I really go to therapy just about this, how hard it is for me to think? Because my father was sick for a while, so I kind of had to make peace with losing him, and I'm still devastated. My mother, we lost in 3 weeks in the hospital. Discovered that she had stage 4 cancer. I can't even talk about this, people, to be honest. But I wish you God's comfort, and thank you very much.
Really
And I
quickly,
wish you,
really quickly. Wait. One more thing. My father was on the front lines of the Six-Day War in 1967 with Israel. At the end of his 3 month stint, he had a conversation with Yitzhak Rabin. And when Yitzhak Rabin asked him what he was up to, he said, "I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry. I can't tell you. It's top secret."
wow, that's amazing. Your father was a hero. I hope his memory is always a blessing. I hope it inspires you to do great things in his name. God bless. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you.
Okay, hang on. Okay, 1 second. I think we're gonna stay as co-hosts forever because I don't know how to end this live here. Okay, Johnny, help me here. You see,
You know,
I'm broadcasting alone, and my producer's in New York. I think you've got
I
to
have
end this.
I have a story. I'll give you one more story about my father, and this is really funny. My father, he worked as a photographer for a local newspaper. And there was a woman whose cat got caught up in a telephone pole. So the woman had called the fire brigade. And the fire brigade had called the RSPCA, which in the UK is the Royal Society for the Protection of Cruelty to Animals. And they said to the woman, "We can't give you the go ahead because we need the RSPCA. RSPCA said, no, we can't give it to you. We cannot equate the life of a person for the life of a cat. So my father said, give us a ladder. So up he went. He gave his camera to the reporter. He went up the ladder. He got the cat, gave the cat to the woman, the owner. And the reporter took a photograph of my father up the pole, the telephone pole, and not only was my father's picture in the paper, but my father was, you know, the whole article about my father was in the newspaper, and it was the one that he was working for. There you go.
Well, you know what? By the way, it's stories like that and memories like that that just show you the eternity of a relationship and how it can continue to impact on us. But you're in your first week after losing your father. You're in mourning, and give yourself time to grieve. Don't just bury it. Give yourself time to grieve. That's the best advice I'd give you. And I hope, God willing, you will be reunited with him in the time that we call Mashiach. God bless you.
You too.
Okay.
You too.
Okay. Ben Shapiro. So Ben Shapiro decides. Okay, a lot of people are criticizing me for criticizing Ben Shapiro. Really? Is that what we want the Jewish community to be, where we never criticize each other because there's some kind of tribal thing going on that Jews always never call out other Jews? Isn't that the essence of the corruption of so many of our Palestinian brothers and sisters? Everyone knows Hamas are terrorists. Every Palestinian knows they're terrorists. Every Palestinian hates Hamas, but they won't criticize them because one Arab is never allowed to criticize another Arab, and that's why Hamas gets away with their atrocities and barbarity. You think that the Palestinians living in Gaza want Hamas to rule over them? If that were true, then Hamas would have gone to elections to legitimize their rule, but they won't go to elections because they would get two people voting for them unless they were threatening to shoot them with the vote, which they are. I don't want the Jewish community to be that way, God forbid. When someone in the community does something wrong, it has to be called out, respectfully. Now, Ben Shapiro, astonishingly, and I knew this was going to happen. So Pope Leo, first American Pope, becomes Pope. I think it's now in the first 200 days. Okay, so Pope Leo becomes Pope. And suddenly Ben Shapiro has a photo op with him, but he doesn't explain what the photo op is. And I turned to my wife and I said, I'll tell you what the photo op is. I bet you Ben Shapiro is working out a deal to whitewash the legacy of Pope Pius XII. They need a yarmulke. They need someone with a yarmulke. They need an Orthodox Jew to whitewash Pius XII. Now, who was Pius XII? Pius XII was Hitler's pope. He was the pope during the Holocaust. He was the pope from 1939 to about 1957, but he was a pope in the critical years of 1939 to 1945. He was an anti-Semite to his core. Now, it is true that he saved some Jews, maybe even a few thousand, by allowing convents to take them in or churches to take them in. That is true. That's undeniable. But what he didn't do, and what he did do, is infinitely overwhelms any acts of goodness that he did during the Holocaust. Let's go through it. Eugenio Pacelli, as Cardinal Secretary of State, so before he became Pius XII, he actually was the first to legitimize Hitler in the eyes of the international community by signing a concordat, by signing a treaty between the Catholic Church, the most moral, or at least seen as the most moral institution on earth, and Hitler. So suddenly Hitler had international legitimacy when the whole world would have shunned him, and maybe his government wouldn't have survived. So the man who would become Pius XII rescued Hitler. That was 1933. Then you have Pope Pius XI, Pius's immediate predecessor, who decides, I can't take this anti-Semitism of the Nazis anymore, and the Nuremberg laws, and the pogroms, and especially after Kristallnacht in November 1938, Pope Pius XI decides he's putting out a papal encyclical which carries tremendous weight. It's an official statement by the Church, by the Vatican, by the world's largest religion, and he was going to condemn the Nazis. He didn't trust his Cardinal Secretary of State, Eugenio Pacelli, who would become a successor of Pius XII, didn't even trust him to write the encyclical. He brought in an American from Chicago to write it. And it was sitting on Pope Pius XI's desk, and then he died of a heart attack or of a stroke. He died January 1939. Pius XII was quickly elected Pope, and you know what he did with that encyclical condemning Nazism? He destroyed it. They destroyed every last copy. They even got every last copy from the printers. And Pius XII ended up never condemning the Nazis or condemning Hitler or condemning the Holocaust or speaking out against the Holocaust even once. in the 6 years of the Holocaust. Now, aside from the moral failure that you're like the most religious man on earth, you're the Pope for God's sake, and you can't even condemn the slaughter of 10,000 Jews a day, the gassing to death of 10,000 Jews per day every single day for 4 years between 1941 and 1945. Besides that moral failure, let me just tell you, just in terms of information, the Pope had global access to the social media of the day, radio, his addresses, or he had La Servator Romano, he had the Roman Catholic newspaper. All the Pope had to do was put out one statement or say once on the radio, not even in moral terms, just in terms of an infomercial. All he had to do was say once to the Jews of Europe, by the way, Jews are being gassed at these camps they want to send you to. So when they tell you to get on the train from Warsaw, from Umschlagplatz, and go to Treblinka, don't think you're going to the east for work. They're not taking you to Lublin for work. They are taking you to gas chambers. And when they tell you to go into the shower, don't go into the showers. No water is going to come out. Poison gas called Zyklon B, an insecticide, is going to come out, and you will be dead within 5 minutes. Even if the Pope had alerted the Jews, because he had a global network, as to what was happening, and the Pope knew from at least 1942 about the Holocaust. That's definitive. It's in the Vatican archives. But he did none of that. Along comes Ben Shapiro and just put out a 4-part series that he's trumpeting everywhere for money. This is all for cash. Daily Wire is a for-profit business. You have a famous guy wearing a yarmulke, Ben Shapiro, who has decided to whitewash a Nazi collaborator, the worst of the worst, named Pius XII, Hitler's Pope, who even the Roman Catholic Church spits out. The Roman Catholic Church has not beatified or made into a saint Pope Pius XII. They did it with John Paul II within a few years. He is no longer Pope John Paul II. He is Saint John Paul II, and he deserves it. Saint John Paul was Polish. He grew up in Krakow. He was the Archbishop of Krakow. He saved tons of Jews during the Holocaust. And by the way, well, he didn't really have the means to save a lot of Jews in the Holocaust because he was an actor. He wanted to work in plays and the theater, and then he became a priest. But he had so much love for the Jewish people, and he's the one, St. John Paul II, who recognized the state of Israel first time, which was very difficult theologically for the Catholic Church to because the Catholic Church operated on something called replacement theology, that the Jews were replaced by the Catholics. And along comes John Paul II and says, none of that is true. The Jews were not replaced. In fact, we are going to give official diplomatic recognition and send an ambassador to Jerusalem. The Holy See has an ambassador in Jerusalem till today, and Israel has an ambassador to the Holy See in Rome till today, and that's all because of St. John Paul II. But the Church will not beatify or canonize Pius XII. They won't make him to the saint because he wasn't a saint. He was a criminal. He was a wicked, evil man. He was a Nazi collaborator. Along comes one Jew named Ben Shapiro who decides, look, I've already sold out my people with Candace Owens. I made millions of dollars. We don't know how many millions of dollars he made off Candace. I've already bequeathed to the world its foremost anti-Semite, worst anti-Semite in America, Candace Owens, who says that Jews do drink the blood of Christians. Jews kill JFK. Jews are all pedophiles. Israel's a pedophile ring. That's Candace Ovens, because she's clan, Ovens because that's what she wants to send the Jews, is Ben Shapiro's gift to the world. He has never even condemned her. He's afraid of a lawsuit. Yes, this man who expects IDF soldiers to protect him when he's in Israel and risk their lives is such a coward that he is even afraid of getting a stack of papers in the mail that says lawsuit. As if you can't afford the lawyers to defend you, Ben, huh? You've never condemned Candace Ovens, your creation, your media creation. But that was bad enough. But Ben, to go beyond that and now legitimize, whitewash the Nazi collaborator who the whole world calls Hitler's Pope, you've freaking lost it, man. I think by doing this, Ben, you have written yourself out of what we call the pro-Israel community. I mean, you're Jewish, of course. You're as Jewish as I am. You're as Jewish as Moses. Every Jew is a Jew. But you have written yourself out of the pro-Israel community. I believe, Ben Shapiro, that you can no longer be trusted to safeguard the interests of the Jewish community. I think you just follow A, where the money is, and B, where the popularity is. I think that you're pro-Israel. I think you feel for Israel. I think you care about Israel. But I think you mostly protect Israel because it suits the sensibilities of your audience on the daily wire, the Daily Liar, because you have Christian conservatives, you have Republicans, you have MAGA, etc. So they love Israel. But if they turned on Israel, I'm not sure that you wouldn't turn on Israel as well, because you've already turned on the Jewish people by whitewashing Pius XII. You've already turned on the Jewish people by giving us Clandis ovens and keeping her on the air. 2019, she started to praise Adolf Hitler on your airwaves, on the Daily Liar, and you kept her on those airwaves for 4 years after that, 5 years, till 2004 approximately, until I pressured you publicly to have her fired. I didn't leave you alone. And that's why you fired her, out of pressure, because you were just making too much cash, too much money off anti-Semitism. So you have written yourself out of the pro-Israel community, and you cannot be trusted on Jewish issues. And if I'm wrong, then get rid of your stupid documentary. And by the way, if I'm wrong, if you are correct that Pius the 12th, Hitler's Pope, the Nazi collaborator, was actually a saint in disguise, and there's all these new documents that you claim, debate me. I will do an Oxford Rule style debate with you anytime, any place, right now. I will do it on your show. I'll come on tomorrow. I'll come on tonight without any preparation, because I've read and written so much about this. I looked at, everyone knows the reputation of Pius, and that's why you won't debate me, Ben, on anything. Ben only debates people that he is convinced he can beat because the odds are stacked against them. He will never debate me in Pius XII. In fact, Ben, I'm offering, and I'm saying this with all of you listening on the record, I will allow you to bring onto the debate 3 Vatican historians. They can have all of their documents in front of them about Pius, and I will debate without ChatGPT. I will debate without a computer in front of me. I will debate alone against you and 3 Vatican historians, and I will still beat all of you. Because Pius XII, Hitler's Pope, who watched 1,000 Jews deported on October 17th, 1943, from right outside of his window in St. Peter's Square, deported to Auschwitz, 8 days in the cattle cars, and then gassed to death. Pius XII is irredeemable. Okay, I'm going to take one more question, and I really don't know why Ben did this. Oh, I do know. Ka-ching! Is that the answer? Ka-ching! I'm not even going to watch the documentary because there's no way I'm paying whatever the money is. And really, all of you should just cancel your subscriptions to the Daily Liar. Honestly, I mean, if you want to pay for Holocaust revisionism, then support the Daily Liar, because that's what this is. It's Holocaust revisionism. Now, is there anyone that wants to come on to discuss this or anything else? Remember, I don't have my glasses, so I'm looking. Let's see. Let me see where the requests are. Are there any requests here? Okay, but the thing is, if you're gonna say something, hang on a second. Why does someone keep on asking me? Let's see who this is. Hi.
Hi. I wasn't waiting for it. I'm in Lisbon, in Portugal.
Oh, wow. I love Lisbon.
Let me just put my TV a little bit down. Okay. You were in Lisbon.
I was in Lisbon many times. I visited Portugal many times. Remember, my family and I lived in Oxford, England for 11 years. Mm-hmm. So many times in the summer, we would take a flight from Gatwick Airport or Heathrow Airport to go to, is it called Faro? Is it Faro? Faro in southern?
Faro.
Faro. It's gorgeous. One of the most beautiful resorts in all of Europe. But of course, I would go to Lisbon, because I love history, and Lisbon has so much history. Remember that you Portuguese were the world's greatest explorers at one point in history, Vasco da Gama and Prince Henry the Navigator, and you were the first to circumnavigate to go around the Cape of Good Hope at the southern tip of Africa. So the Portuguese have an incredible history.
Yes, we do. And I'm amazed in talking with you because I follow you in social media. I'm Catholic and I'm wearing this.
That's amazing. Wow. Thank you.
I'm wearing
wait. I can't see it exactly. What is it? Is it a Magen David? I don't see it well.
Yes.
That's incredible. You're a Catholic woman who wears a Star of David. Wow, that's incredible.
I also use Nossa Senhora de Nazaré and, of course, my cross. Where is it?
Well, let me tell you, wearing your cross is very important. Whenever I meet as a Jew with my kippah, with my tzitzis, right? My tzitzis wherever I go. I mean, right? These are my religious symbols, and yours is the cross. Wherever I go and I see Christian men and women, Catholic men and women wearing a cross, it gives me so much joy to see people celebrating their faith. We need a world of more God. And what we're seeing is that the Jewish community is getting the greatest support, and the state of Israel is getting the greatest support from people like you who wear a cross, who are Christian, who take their faith very seriously. So that's a beautiful thing.
It couldn't be otherwise, you know. Our two religions are connected.
Yes,
Christ was Jewish.
exactly.
My best friend is Jewish, but he doesn't practice. And I'm always saying that he should have more faith. I always saying that he doesn't believe in anything, and I don't push my religion on him, but I try him to explore his all the time. We do all the holy days. I always try for him to do it, and I will do it with him. Also the Catholic ones, because I want to share my faith, and I know that he should, and I think that he should also be more engaged with faith also, because
We,
he was a soldier. He passed for a lot of things, and for me it's like impossible for a person that passes for a lot of stuff, doesn't believe in something higher than just this. So I'm
yeah, well, you
really,
know, I find it, you're being very prophetic what's happening in my mind, because, you know, my wife Debbie and I, Debbie's sitting right in front of me. So I'm American, my wife's Australian. She upgraded by becoming an American. But we have two sons who have been at war in Israel for 2 years. And I was speaking to my elder son today, and I was saying to him, I know that as a father, no matter how much comfort I try and give you about the horrors that you've seen and the dangers you've experienced, let alone the anxiety that my wife and I have endured over the past 2 years with two sons at war and this horrible war against the Hamas terrorists, the barbarity of Hamas. I said to my son, no matter how much I try to empathize with everything you're experiencing, I can't do it because I never fought in war. War is something so extreme. And for human beings to engage in war and that fight, and especially Jewish soldiers knowing that the weight of the Holocaust is on their shoulders. My two sons who are fighting in the IDF, I took them throughout Europe here to all the Holocaust sites. They've been with me to Auschwitz-Birkenau. They've been to Treblinka. They've been to Majdanek. They've been to Gross-Rosen. They've been to Sachsenhausen. They've been to Mauthausen. They've been to all these places where if they only killed 100,000 Jews that year, that wasn't a lot, because in Auschwitz they killed 1.1 million. Or any of these places that we're seeing on the Main River or the Rhine River or the Danube River in Europe, where in every community, you know, going back 1,000 years, they killed 10,000. Listen, even Portugal has a very difficult Jewish history. You know what's
yes,
interesting?
yes,
That when Spain expelled the Jews, Ferdinand and Isabella. So Ferdinand and
yes.
Isabella married, and they combined the kingdoms of Aragon and Castile.
Yeah, they were called
And
the Catholic kings.
that's correct, because they were so, and they showed their Catholicism by hating Jews, the Spanish Inquisition and the Spanish expulsion in 1492.
Yeah, and they
And it was
forced us.
and it was Portugal who took the Jews in. It was
Yeah, but we
Portugal,
also,
and but then the king of Portugal, wanted to marry their daughter, and they made it conditional on him expelling all the Jews.
yeah,
That was
but
the wedding present.
the wedding present, we have a lot of conversation, me and my friend, about what happened with the Jewish people in Portugal. We have like still places like in Bairro Alto, Rua da Judiria, that it has the Star of David that unfortunately has been like being attacked almost every week with people that have no faith and no respect for history, because it's our history also.
So
And
that's happening now in Lisbon, in
yeah,
central
yeah,
Lisbon.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's
Are
like
they're
that's
what
why
they're giant Free Palestine marches?
not giant, okay, not giant. It's not. We are not still there. We have like how can you say it? Portuguese people are not like the Spanish or the Italians. We are Latin, but we are more. We think more, and it takes a little bit for us to take some action. Like the minorities are the ones that are doing that, but it's something that has been shown, and I've been following it in social media, and that's why I start using also the Star of David to show my support.
You know, I have to tell you, that's a beautiful thing. And I have an African American female friend, one of the closest friends of our family, named Dana, and she had a super powerful position in American government. and she's a Christian. She's an evangelical Christian, and like you, she wears a Magen David. And she called me up from Boston one day, and she said to me, Shmuley, and she's a Christian. She's not Jewish, but she wears a Magen David, the Star of David. And she said to me, I had my first anti-Semitic experience because some person thought I was a Jew wearing Magen David and attacked me and said, you bitch Jewish woman, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I said, well, now you kind of know the way we live. I would love to see Europeans, especially non-Jewish Europeans, beginning to wear a kippah just out of solidarity, just out of a way of saying that they, or a Magen David like you are. So I'm really grateful that you're doing that. And by you doing it as a Catholic woman, you not only are you showing friendship and courage, but you're showing the Jews that they don't have to be afraid, that they're not alone. Because the Jewish community, especially here in Europe, I'm an American, I'm
I
in
know,
Europe
but
right now,
it's,
they feel
listen,
very isolated.
my friend, he didn't have one. He didn't have one. So in his birthday, I offered him one because in his bar mitzvah, he asked only for other stuff, so he didn't got one. And I said, how can it be possible, not having one? So I bought it one and I gave it to him to his birthday. And one of the things that I
Wow.
think it's people should not hide what they are. Okay, we shouldn't. I never hide being a Catholic, and I think that I should give my support for the all Jewish people to go like walking in the streets with pride, because it's a pride people. You
You're
are.
right. You're right.
We Portuguese are also. So the thing is, here in Portugal, it's we have like the liberals. And listen, I always was like a person that you would take me as a left wing. But when I started and I studied a lot, and my father had the degrees in religions, and he studied also Judaism and Catholicism and Islam. We have Al Quran at home. We have all the books at home. We all at our house we had access to study the things. My father said, you want to discuss that fact with me, so go and read this and this, and then we will have a conversation. It's not intellectually serious if you don't are not educated in the fact. It's like throwing words to the wind. So we always did it. And the thing is, what I see, it's like when I don't know something, I won't talk about it, but it will stay on my mind, and I will educate myself about it. I won't have an opinion only because it's fashionable and it's polite to have. So right now,
There's a big debate that's going on now as to whether all this anti-Semitism, which has become an explosion, a volcano of anti-Semitism, especially in Europe, is it based on ignorance or hatred of the Jewish people? Now, there are some people that just
I
hate.
think it's the two together.
I agree. For some people, it is based on ignorance, and I've been able to change people by giving them real facts. Because anyone that studies the history of the Jewish-Arab conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in the Middle East, you cannot help but conclude not only that the sides are so imbalanced in terms of the moral and the immoral, not only are they completely imbalanced, Israel's a democracy, LGBTQ rights, women's rights, the free vote, the free press, and the Palestinian Authority and Hamas, of course, exact opposite. If a Palestinian girl has a boyfriend at 17, let alone if she dares have sex, she will be killed. Not by a stranger, but usually by her brothers or her uncle in
It's
order to,
honor crime.
even just to defend that would be insanity.
It's happening in Europe. It's happening in Europe.
The honor killings, yeah.
Yeah, it's happening. I've read about it. I saw people talking about it, survivors talking about it. And I'm not like what they call a feminist. Okay, so I have also that against me with some people, because I believe in roles, in the role of the woman, in the role of the man. It's not being submissive. I think it's a compliment as a couple. They should have. It's like I always say it. Listen, it's like a company. You create a company. You have like your partnership, and it's for everything. If you work together well, everything will be like you will have like a great society, like between the two of you, and then you have the fruits, the kids, and the family, and everything.
Well, you're talking to a father of 6 daughters who's trying to raise I have raised, thank God, 6 very strongly opinionated daughters. I
Well,
have
my
6 daughters
father,
and 3 sons. And my daughter, Rachalea, who's become a world-renowned social media influencer, she just had her first baby 2 months ago, thank God. But everyone knows her, Rachalea. I get stopped on the streets of New York. I get stopped in the streets of London. I get stopped in the streets of Los Angeles. People say to me, and I think they're going to say, "Hi, Rabbi Shmuley." They don't. They say, "Aren't you the father of that girl, Rachalea?" Anyway, but she bought me a T-shirt for my birthday, and it said, "You can't frighten me. I have 6 daughters." So I know everything you mean about. But thank you very much, and thank you for your solidarity with Israel and the Jewish community. And it's amazing that you wear a Magen David, and I really would love to see that, much more in Europe. And God bless you. And
thank you
we'll
very
meet
much.
each other in Lisbon sometime.
A lot of love for you
God
and for
bless.
your.
God bless you. Thank you. Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for today. A bit of a long show, but I enjoyed it, and thank you so many of you for joining us. You've learned a lot about Europe. You've learned a lot about the history of Europe. You've learned a lot about modern Europe. You've learned a lot about ancient Europe, and we've taken you back 1,000 years. So from the beginning of the First Crusades and how they influenced and affected the communities along the Main River, along the Rhine River, along the Danube River, in Germany, in Hungary, and over the next few days in some other countries. The history is at times horrific. The history is at times uh, almost unfathomable. It's about having to accept the unacceptable and to carry on. But here we are. The Jewish people are currently fighting in the land of Israel, in our ancient homeland, a 6-front war, but succeeding, thank God. And now we're fighting a giant PR war where they're trying to libel us, et cetera, et cetera. But this Jew ain't never going to stop fighting. Come and join me, my brothers and sisters, my Jewish brothers and sisters, my non-Jewish brothers and sisters, my Muslim brothers and sisters. Take your religion back from the Islamists. Islam is a beautiful, great world religion. Let its light shine through the Quran, through the teachings of Muhammad, through the Hadith, through eating halal, through celebrating Fridays as a holy day. Don't let it be seen through the eyes of the Islamists, through anti-Semitism, through calls for jihad, for murder, genocide, not through the eyes of Hamas. God bless you all.